So the question of provenance is extremely interesting, especially for this last object that we're going to dive into. As you can see, there are two numbers that were on the back. The first one is 2011-9, which is when the Museum Rietberg purchased the item for their collection. And the other number is 14356, which has a specific handwriting calligraphy that originates from a man called Webster. And Webster was one of the biggest importers and distributors of objects that were directly looted from the 1897 attack of Benin City. As we can see here in the provenance mapping, it went from Benin City to London. From London, it went to Leipzig. From Leipzig to Stuttgart. From Stuttgart to the USA. From the USA all the way back to Brussels, then up to Montreal, and after Montreal, it went now back to Zurich. And it has gone through William Downing Webster as a handler that went into the auction room, Hans Mayer as another handler, Ernst Heinrich as a collector, the family of Sibi Zemitis. Then we've got the other handler in Brussels, that is Lloyd van Bussel, Jacques Germain in Montreal, and then finally Zurich in the Museum Rietberg. Now the fact is, each time the item has been shifted from one collection to another auction house to a private family, it actually added value. You have to understand that the price of $12 million that could have been purchased in 2011 from the museum to have this object is an accumulation of added value from each collector. As we can see, Benin curious, China, bronzes, relics, arms and armors, native weapons and carvings, antiques, ancient implements, etc. These were the ways that they would have the curiosities, tickle the fancies of the exoticism, the fetishism, fetishizing these oriental beauties, these oriental treasures, treasures of loot. And so we also need to understand that a fundamental characteristic of how objects get into these museums is really categorized by the families or the collectors that have this. So the families of these collectors, the influence of these families, and it is what it is used in the auction houses to then add value in order to eventually purchase them. So when we're talking about restitution, we're not just talking about some simple give back objects that were stolen. We're talking about an accumulation of wealth over generations since the 1800s of European families that have a lot of power, and these objects come with that heritage with them. Beyond being just objects of spiritual purpose that are very important for a lot of people, that now belongs to one person, and making sure that it is not an object of art, but an object of spiritual, traditional importance and value that is now being robbed from that and silenced within a collection. And last and not least, the influence of the collector's family or the museum that has the object. These are the traits and the qualities that we need to take into consideration when thinking about restitution, because it is beyond just the object. It is actually understanding the generational wealth that these museums purchase and buy into. So I hope this little explanation of the provenance of this little hip mask can explain a little bit more about the ways we need to start thinking of taking responsibility moving forward with the sensitive, problematic, and rather contested nature of such museums moving on. So let's try and finish this. Yeah.